Shirley Regional School Building Committee meeting number 91. I'd like to have the review and approval of the minutes of December 17th. It's in your packets. Any comments this time? No comments, make a motion for approval. Motion has been approved, seconded. Take a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion is passed, 8-0. Yes. Construction and schedule update. Trip?
Sure. So, as I think you're all aware from the December meeting, essentially the team had not been meeting on a weekly basis, but what we have been doing is tracking the progress of the completion of the project with Consigli. And I'm happy to report that they've made some significant progress. At this point in time, it is primarily down to finishing the punch list items, which originally were about 2,300 punch list items. We're down to 61 open items. And within the next 2 weeks, that number should be significantly reduced as well. The attic stock, so extra squares of flooring materials or extra tile or mechanical filters and belts, all of the things that are in the Sims's specifications, those have been pretty much all delivered. We have 85 spec categories that have been delivered, 16 spec categories which we're waiting for parts and pieces. And here's an example in the shades, for example. We have multiple different shades in the building. So the vendor that provides shades is going to come do the verticals, do the rolling down, so you have an extra replacement part should that become necessary down the road. You have the stock on hand. Well, that one example might take 5 categories off of the 16. So that particular contractor will be here next week to deliver his attic stock and to finish a few punch list items. A couple of other items to just note. The electrician still has some speakers and some extra fire alarm devices. So there are a few other things, but we've made some significant progress on getting the attic stock here. Then we also have a series of operations and maintenance manuals that tell you exactly how to maintain and take care of the equipment that's been installed in the building. And those types of, we call them O&M manuals, any warranties that are associated with all the projects, items that have been installed. That gets put into one major package and it's transferred in an electronic file so that you can actually go in on your computer and look and see what is the manufacturer telling you need to do to maintain this building. So once the contractor gets all of those together, they come in hard copy, but then they also scan them all into a disk, and then they turn over 100% of that information in one fell swoop. So right now it's currently posted to the Consigli Gateway account. So the school does have access to them, but there's going to be a formal turnover once we are 100%. So of all of those sort of closeout log items, essentially there are 459 items that they have in hand, and they are waiting for 46 items from various subcontractors. The fire protection, I'm just going to bring up the major components. Fire protection owes 11 items, and miscellaneous and HVAC sort of special warranties on various items. We've got about 13 items there. And then, as you're aware, this spring there's still work to go on, and so until that work's complete, we won't get the maintenance, for example, on the landscaping materials until that has been completed. And so there are about 7 items there. So the short of it is, we're waiting for about the last 10% on the closeout log items. As you're also aware, in the spring, we had certain items that just due to timing and circumstances sort of beyond Consigli's control, and I'll give you an example. They had taken and scraped as much loam off this site as they could when they were preparing the site for all of the things that we did. And then that got screened, and you know, the junk, the rocks, the sticks got all removed. They had those big wonderful piles around the building. Well, until we got to the point of spreading it out, we had so many piles of it, it was really hard to calculate. Now I look at Eric, who's probably sitting over there going, I could probably calculate to the spoonful. But the real short of it is we have a smaller building footprint than what we did when we started. So the old footprint was larger than what we have today. And so there's that much less loam. And when they were spreading it in the fall, we were actually working with Peter with Kasich from Sims to try to ask questions. Could we take 6 inches and make it 2 inches? And the advice is, no, that's a little too narrow, but maybe 4 inches would work. So we were trying to extend it because to import it was an expenditure. And as you may recall, in the spring, in the fall, we actually did spend about $20,000 of importing more loam. We've also estimated now that in the spring, we may need another $20,000 or $25,000 worth of additional loam to cover everything. The question is, how far do you go towards the woods? You know, maybe you just say, well, you know, it's not going to get mowed back there anyway. Let's see what grows. Might be my recommendation, but it's certainly not my decision to make. So I guess my point is that there are some reasons why the whole site did not get grassy. We didn't have the material to deal with it, and so that's one of the things that'll start on or around May 1st, depending on the weather we're having. Based on today, we probably could have seeded today. But the other thing is the tennis courts got in, but we did not have comfort zone of putting the coating on top of them because it needs 7 days of over, I think it was 40-degree weather. And at the time, we couldn't guarantee it, and we didn't want it to bubble up. So it was more of a, does it really hurt us to push it off into the spring? No, it does not. Nobody's playing tennis in the winter. So out there, especially. Then there are a few things that just over the course of the project, a generator was installed early on. The base was exposed to elements and sort of construction debris and things, so that needs to be repainted. So there, and then there's some miscellaneous things around the site. There's still the wash-off stone that's acting as a barrier to protect the wash-off coming down the hill. That was the truck wash from the old entry ramp. You know, we had those big 3-inch plus rocks there. So we've got a bunch of that stuff to sort of clean up. So that's kind of the springtime activity. I'm going to say that that's sometime May 1st, and Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, but May 1st to sometime early June. And we're probably out of here. The seeding itself is probably about 2 or 3 weeks, depending on how much turning the soil we need to do and raking it out, et cetera.
So hoping possibly it could be done for the June 3rd graduation.
I think you'll certainly have grass down. If they start on May 1st.
Well, the window's even earlier, and we have a specification of April 15th, and I've worked with the manual. So they'll both of us keep an eye on the calendar. Ultimately, it isn't necessarily the weather, it's the soil,
Yep.
Temperature, and then without boring you with a lot of turf components. If we get in early? Early?
No, the boring.
Oh, the boring, you want the boring things. I'll talk to you later. So the short answer to your question is yes, we'll try.
We should be able to. I mean, May 1st was just trying to be a little conservative.
Yeah, and that's a good target date.
Yeah, you know, it's going to be plus or minus a little bit. And then finally, as you may recall, in December, there was an additional signage package that was approved by this body, and that's in fabrication right now, should be done and ready to be installed sometime in March. Meantime, there's still 61 punch list items. Nobody's going away. Chandler does not like to get taking my calls on a regular basis. And there's still a lot of money still on the table. There's close to $1 million left on the table, and you'll see it when we go to the requisition. So that's essentially where we stand with construction. Go ahead. Any questions?
All those work items, so those are not on the punch list, right? Those work items that you were kind of going through the list of the, they have side landscaping and other things that need to be done, weather permitting and other.
Yeah, so, well, you can't do a punch list on work that hasn't been done yet. So the landscaper will have a
So
punch list.
there's a list someplace that kind of relates all those items that you were.
Yeah, so, well, once the site is completed, then the contractor will do a punch list, and the contractor will send that over to that gentleman over there. The district will have the opportunity to weigh in on those items, sort of in the middle of that process. And then we go through the same standard procedure that we followed today. Again, 2,300 items down to 61. I think it's going pretty well, and there's some jobs that would envy that position. So.
Great, thank you, Tripp. You've been a valuable asset to the project from the very get-go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again. All right, moving on. Item 4, change order and budget approvals. Start with consignment change order number 21 in the amount of $101,653.33. If you look over your packet, that will be on there. Any discussion? No discussion? Make a
Are
motion.
these just all punch list items that came in over?
I'm sorry, so
there's
I'll
about
give a
a
little
million
bit
things
more
on
of
there,
a
like-
detailed breakdown on this. So you'll see that the numbers, and I'm going to point to the numbers on the left-hand side first. See 17-078R1. Okay, so that was change order number 78. Okay, the first number is which bucket is it coming from? That's contingency, which is 17. And you can see the very bottom one is 17-289. So what I'm going to tell you is that some of these, as they follow in sequential order, were things that we were cleaning up or were occurring late in the job. Some of these items were heavily contentious, and you'll see that they've been sitting out there long. You see the numbers so old, they've been sitting out there a long time. So what we've done as a weekly review group, which Mary and Murray and others, obviously attend the Consigli weekly meeting, is that we would have discussions with Consigli, with Sims, the architect, and with Doran Whittier, the OPM, and we would discuss these, we would argue these, and we would banter back and forth to try to find a common ground. Sometimes this is somewhat a bit of a let's make a deal, what's fair and what's not fair. When they sit out there very, very long, we've probably had significant effort to make a deal. So the first one, for example, it's only $2,000. But whether it's $2,000 or $200,000, it doesn't really matter. We don't agree with it. We don't agree with it. You fight every penny, and you can see that one goes way back. This was in relationship to the flashing, and these can get very involved to go through. But the flashing and the return of the air vapor barrier and how it intersected and got cocked into the edge of the window, and you could actually see a bit of this on the finish, and we argued that you should not be able to see this on the finish, and the sub had to go back and re-trim all of the AVB at every window in the building. And so it was a significant labor effort. Eric, I see you looking at it. Yeah, you can you have to see the detail to understand what I'm talking about. So we went round and round. But I just used that one as an example. Maybe the one below it, which is $29,000. We made a series of adjustments to the parking lot to get the buses to swing in properly. I don't know whether you may recall that. And to the front entrance, there were adjustments. And we also found that from the installation a year ago, we found that there were a bunch of precast curbs that had been damaged by snowplow. So prior to doing the finish paving, we literally did a rush job and found a manufacturer that had about 20 lengths of precast curbing and had it delivered and then installed them prior to the final paving. And so we took the most cracked and the most damaged curbing and replaced it.
So that's
Because it made the
included in
most
that.
sense at that point in time.
That's included in that
It is, it is.
119?
But I think what you get a bit of a sense is that there's a long drawn-out review process that typically occurs with anything. The nice part about projects that are CM at risk is that it's all open book. So we get to see, the contractor's review of the material, the architect, the OPM, the owner is all present to have discussions. It's not a take it or leave it, which is a lump sum bid could say, my price is X. If you don't want me to do it, don't let me do it. I don't have to do it. If you want me to do it, here's my price. And you kind of lose a little bit of bargaining there. Not saying it's that absolute, but this is a better process. So the point being is that we've gotten through a lot of the changes. We have one more sort of round, I think, of changes and to review, and some of them have been hanging out. Some of them are time and material changes that we could not come to an agreement. So we said, we're going to just track this on time and material, and when we get to the end of the job, we'll agree to how much time and material is spent on various items. So some of that might be safety related items or cleaning or something else. But did I help anybody with that?
Joyce?
So is there a number now, so this is coming out of contingency,
It is.
and so then do we know what the remaining number is that we have to work with? You said there was still a lot of money sitting out
So,
there. Can you
I
define that a
believe-
little bit more?
I believe right now that we have used, and I only happen to have this because Consigli gave me some numbers. Okay, we're currently, and is that is after, yeah, so currently in the construction contingency account, it's the owner's construction contingency account. As you may recall, it started out at $2.7 million.
Right.
We now have $1,464,430.24 remaining in the account after the approval of this $101,000.
Okay, thank you.
So what that means is that Consigli has, through changes, earned an additional $1,351,000, which equates to about 3% of the guaranteed maximum price amount. On an ad rental, the typical number that is, I think, accepted is about 7% contingency for changes. So
At 3 we're doing good.
at 3, we're doing real good. I would say that, there's another 250,000 that's still hanging out there with Consigli that has not been negotiated yet as the team. When you put that all together, you come to 3.61. That's the end of the show, unless we add some loan. Aside from adding loan, I don't see a lot of other things that we could be adding. At this point in time, the architect's contract's expired, my contract's expired. The contractor's still here because of obligations to finish up. But if none of us are playing, there's nobody to add the work. You can't do it anymore. So if we all go away, you can't make changes. So it's just the way it is. And we're going away. So hopefully that helps.
Not till after spring.
Any further questions? Hearing none, I'd like to take a vote.
Did you get a
Move to
motion?
approve change order number 21 as presented in the paperwork this evening.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Hear a vote? Ayes?
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it.
It's now 9 members here, so it's 9-0.
Moving on. Budget revision, request number 26, shown on the next page. authorize budget transfer to cover the cost of construction contract change order number 21. The construction contingency. This is the moving the budget, the money within the budget. That's all this is doing, Tripp explained to me.
So this is just to notify you, we're moving it from contingency up to cover the approved change. I don't think it requires a vote, it just needs signatures.
We usually do.
Do you really, okay?
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we move money from construction contingency to cover change order number 21.
Motion's made here, second? Okay. Take a vote. Ayes?
Aye.
Nays?
9-0.
9-0 again. Okay, moving on, item number 5, invoice submitted for approval. The packet, they're all there, outlined, we can take them one by one as we usually do. We'll start with the first. The DWMP final invoice, number 47, dated 9/30/2015, for the OPM closeout services in the amount of $25,215.04. Motion?
Second. You move it.
Motions are made, motions are made.
So is Eric, Pat?
Eric and Pat?
Eric,
Thank you.
Take a vote. Aye. Oh, excuse me, one vote, one question,
Wasn't
Joyce.
it, somebody's recommendation that we didn't do the final closeouts yet on the final bills?
Oh,
On the
so that was on
Sims
Sims.
or for-
So,
or for
and
Norton
that's a great
Whittier?
question, I'll clarify right
Because
now.
I think that was your recommendation, so that's.
Well, it was until this point in time. So contractually, and this is both for Sims' contract and for Doran Whittier's contract. Sims and Doran Whittier have to extend our contracts for 60 days after the substantial completion date, which was October 27th.
Right.
After that point in time, our contracts basically have expired and you would flip to hourly. Because we've been pushing so hard in December to get consigli sort of out the door and to reduce our time and Tim's time, we did not want to go hourly with you. So we were trying to sort of back away, and we sort of had a gentleman's agreement, if you will. We're not going to charge you if it's a couple of hours here and there. We'll continue to do the monthly report for the MSBA. We'll show up to the occasional meeting like this. If we were meeting every week and we had a 4-hour commitment, and it's 2 people, or Sims had 2 people for a 4-hour commitment, every week, and you start to get into 20 hours or something like that, it would be a different story. But we're not playing in that, arena right now.
I only asked
this-
that because that was what your earlier
I
recommendation.
totally understand, and so I think we've gotten to the point where we've got the punch list items all worked out, the mechanical systems are working, I believe, again, Andy's helping with a little bit of stuff with how, but I think it's more of we're doing what we think is right now. Contractually, I think that you don't have a choice. Do you have any questions, John? We're looking for questions. Okay.
All right, we're saying that it's been, had a motion and it's been seconded. Go for vote. Ayes?
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it, 9-0. Good. Moving on. Joe Whittier invoice number 48 dated 11/30/15 for UTS on-site testing services in the amount of $253. Moved and seconded. Take a vote. Ayes?
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it. Moving on, to item number 3, SMMA's October invoice number 43782 dated 11/10/15 for the amount of $21,250 for the closeout phase services.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, aye.
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it. 9-0. Item E, Air Shirley Regional School District, FF&E budget, bigger, faster, stronger invoice number 343827 dated 11/11/15 for P&E alternative room weightlifting equipment in the total amount of $9,999. Entertain a motion?
Move approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Take a vote. Ayes?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it, 9-0.
Is this new equipment that was contracted for, or is this equipment that just came in
I
later?
think that was the remainder of the new,
The weights,
that was
this-
the,
was
that
this
was
a
the
change?
racks and the weights,
It
yeah.
wasn't a change, it was part of the original.
That's
the
why-
original, we were
that's why
waiting for that
So
in
it came
line.
in late.
Consigli's Construction, December, invoice number 34, in the amount of $956,020.16.
If I may just comment on that. The majority of this is retainage release. So you may recall that in the last meeting that there was roughly about $1 million in retainage release, I believe. It might have been a little less than that, but Consigli had maintained roughly $2.3 million, I believe, in contingency. The state does not allow them to sit on subcontractors' money that long. So this was an effort initially to, in December, release a fair chunk of it, and then a fair chunk of it is being released now in this $900,000, $950,000. There's still, if you see the invoice in your packet, you can still see item number 5, it says retainage. There's $638,000 still being held for retainage. And then that rolls into the balance to finish work, which is now stated at $1,046,000. Okay, so what that means is that it's the 146 minus the 638. There's roughly about 400,000 that's being held back at this point in time. And what is that? That 400,000 is largely punch list items that we are saying are still outstanding, and the springtime work that I described.
Well, that's it, thank you, Tripp. I entertain a motion.
Move approve.
Moved, second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Take a vote. Ayes?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it, 9-0. Last item, Air Shirley Regional School District's FF&E budget. W.B. Mason invoice number 675952. The final payment for classroom seating and desk in the amount of $130.68.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Take a vote. Ayes?
Aye.
Nays? Nays. 9-0.
There we go.
All right, working group updates. Finance? Clifton said he had nothing?
I had talked to Murray, he did not have any updates. I suppose I would say that he is, he's out of town at the moment, but when he gets back, hopefully we have the ability to go through and review the remainder of Consigli's changes so that we can get the fiscal stuff cleaned up, and then look at the overall budget as it has various amounts of money scattered around, and I'll give you an example. For example, we carried a budget of $25,000 for permit. We didn't spend any of that. So there's some sort of sweeping out the corners to get to the final number, and I'd anticipate that that's kind of a March exercise to be reported out in the spring at some point in time.
Public relations, Pat, anything?
No updates. I'm gonna work with Murray to put a final report together to have ready for both towns' springtime meeting.
New business. New business. Hearing none? Take that as no.
Joyce?
Joyce, I'm sorry.
That's all right, no problem. Tripp, you said it was a March exercise. When do the final reports, what's the timeline on getting everything to the state and the state getting stuff back to us? Is that 6 months? I know it's not instantaneous.
Okay, so there's Module 8, which is the closeout component, and they have various checklists of things that both require the district to do some things and for us to just sort of accumulate the pile of paperwork. What's the pile of paperwork? It would be like the substantial completion document that the architect issues, the permanent certificate of occupancy by the building inspector, documents might include, they want the district to disclose 100% any rebates or third-party funding that might have been received. So, for example, National Grid had an amount of money that they reimbursed the district for the energy-effective building that's being built. So there's a whole series of documentation that needs to be submitted. None of that can be done until the lead submission comes back. And we have not seen anything from USBC, or did I just say it right? USBC.
WPS?
Okay, well, yes, there's a G in there somewhere, right? So it's the lead accrediting agency, which is basically saying that we've built a highly efficient building. And that is 2 incentive points to the district from the state. So there's a bunch of things to answer your question. My guess is from this point, you're probably in the neighborhood of 6 months out. And then it's a submission, and then once the MSBA working with the district, so it's probably going to be with you, Bill, and or Mary, and it's probably going to take another 2 or 3 months to get that all resolved, and then you'll get a board meeting notice, and once they're fully satisfied, you'll go in front of the board, and the board of directors will go, you're done. So my guess is that might be in October, November.
So we're talking about basically 8 months from now or something.
Something like that. And again, you won't have us around you. There's going to be no need for a meeting like this because it's going to be just district,
We'll call
Yeah. If you really miss me, I'll come back.
Don't change your phone number.
You do know where to find me. And but it is an elongated period of time. Not a lot to do.
Not everybody should hear that.
And then we do have one other topic in
All right.
other area.
Other topics not reasonably anticipated for 48 hours brought to my attention that SMMA has another invoice that needs to be presented.
So in your packet, you'll see that the invoice for Sims for closeout brought them to 75% complete. As I stated, contractually, they're at this point into their 100% complete, because that's just what their contract says. So they had forwarded us another invoice, and our apologies for not getting it in. This invoice is for $21,050, which is the same as in your packet, and that takes them to the completion of $85,000. So you can see in your packet that percent complete for closeout was 75%. Earned was $63,750. Well, if you add another $21,250 to that, you'll see that it equals $85,000, which then pays them 100%.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion we pay SMMA their invoice for $21,050.
Motion's been made and seconded. There a vote? Ayes?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it, 9-0. Motion's been approved. All right, public comment, anything from our audience tonight? Hearing nothing, move on. Next meeting and date, the next scheduled meeting will be on April 14th. I believe it's going to be here unless otherwise notified.
The day before your taxes are due.
Certainly can entertain a motion to adjourn, if anybody has one.
Yeah.
It's a Thursday, the
Motion's been
14th.
made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.